Derek Chisora. Before the WBC handed Derek Chisora one of the most embarrassing bans in modern boxing, he was already building a highlight reel. Not of knockouts, but of bad behavior. Let's rewind to 2012. Chisora was set to fight Vitaly Klitschko for the WBC heavyweight title in Munich, Germany. Now, press conferences and weigh-ins are usually tense, but Chisora didn't just bring tension, he brought chaos. First, at the weigh-in, Chisora slapped Klitschko across the face. No gloves, no warning, just a loud, disrespectful open-hand slap that shocked everyone in the room. It wasn't a push or a bit of trash talk, it was a straight-up assault on the defending champion in front of the cameras. Then, just before the fight itself, as the two men faced off in the ring, Chisora walked over to Vladimir Klitschko, who wasn't even fighting, and spat water in his face. A completely unprovoked, disgusting move that made international headlines and had boxing fans wondering if Chisora was unhinged or just playing the villain to the extreme. But it didn't end there. After Chisora lost the actual fight to Vitaly, he showed up at the post-fight press conference, and that's when all hell broke loose. Sitting calmly in the crowd was former champion David Haye, who wasn't even involved in the fight. Chisora spotted him, exchanged words, and within moments, the two were swinging at each other in the middle of the press room, surrounded by stunned media. Chisora even picked up a bottle and threatened Haye, and their entourage turned it into a full-on melee. Cameras caught it all, and it went viral. The WBC had seen enough. A few days later, they issued a statement calling Chisora's actions one of the worst behaviors ever by a professional boxer. They slapped him with an indefinite ban, removed him from the WBC rankings entirely, and said he would never fight for their belts again unless he underwent serious anger management and proved he could be a professional. Chisora eventually apologized, went through the motions, and after some time, the WBC lifted the ban. But the whole episode remains one of the most chaotic strings of behavior ever seen in boxing, and a textbook example of how to get yourself banned by one of the biggest organizations in the sport, Alexander Povetkin. If Derek Chisora got banned for wild behavior outside the ring, Alexander Povetkin got banned for something much sneakier and a lot more dangerous: performance-enhancing drugs. Twice. Let's rewind to 2016. Povetkin, the Russian powerhouse and former Olympic gold medalist, was scheduled for the biggest fight of his life, a WBC heavyweight title bout against the undefeated knockout machine Deontay Wilder. Everything was set. The press tours were rolling, the hype was building, but just weeks before the fight, boom, failed drug test. Povetkin had tested positive for meldonium, a banned substance that boosts endurance and blood flow. He claimed it was from a leftover dosage taken before the ban went into effect in January 2016, a loophole he hoped would save him. The WBC didn't buy it. They canceled the fight and launched an investigation. But Povetkin was far from done with controversy. Fast forward just a few months to December 2016. Povetkin was scheduled to fight Bermane Stiverne for the WBC interim heavyweight title, essentially a ticket back into contention. And again, he failed the drug test. This time, it was for ostarine, another banned substance, commonly associated with muscle growth and fat loss. Stiverne immediately pulled out of the fight, but in classic Povetkin style, he fought anyway, against a late replacement. The WBC was furious. They weren't just dealing with a repeat offender. They were dealing with a fighter who ignored warnings, sabotaged two high-profile matchups, and dragged the credibility of their title picture through the mud. So in early 2017, the WBC made a bold move. They banned Povetkin indefinitely from competing in any WBC-sanctioned events. They also hit him with a $250,000 fine and removed him from their rankings. The message was clear: play the PED game and you're out. But here's where it gets complicated and controversial. Povetkin appealed. His team argued that the levels found in his system were small, accidental, or unintentional. And after nearly a year out of the WBC picture, the organization quietly lifted the ban in late 2017, converting it into a one-year suspension with conditions. By January 2018, Povetkin was ranked by the WBC again, like nothing had ever happened. So while the WBC's lifetime ban only lasted about a year, it still stands as one of the most high-profile punishments ever handed down by the organization. 2 drug failures in the same year, 2 canceled fights, and 1 very angry WBC president. Povetkin would go on to fight Anthony Joshua and others on the world stage, but the stain of 2016-2017 never quite left him. In the end, the ban was temporary, but the damage to his reputation? That might be permanent. Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia wasn't just a boxer. He was a full-blown celebrity, the kind of fighter who could pull in TikTok followers and Instagram likes by the millions before he even fought for a world title. Hand speed like a video game glitch, good looks, charisma, a social media army. Garcia had the kind of crossover appeal promoters dream about. But in 2024, that same social media machine, it became his downfall. Let's rewind. In April 2024, Garcia shocked the boxing world by knocking down and defeating Devin Haney, handing Haney his first professional loss. Sure, Garcia missed weight and didn't win a title, but it didn't matter to most fans. He'd done the unthinkable. He was back. Then, things got weird. Garcia started flooding his social media with a bizarre mix of conspiracy theories, erratic live streams, religious rants, and increasingly offensive content. At first, people thought he was trolling or just playing crazy. But the posts kept coming, and they kept getting worse. In June 2024, things hit a boiling point. Garcia went on a disturbing tirade filled with racist slurs targeting black people, Islamophobic comments, and a litany of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. These weren't just edgy jokes or bad takes. They were hate-filled rants posted publicly, repeatedly, without remorse. His Twitter and Instagram accounts looked less like a boxer's and more like a hate preacher's. The backlash was immediate and massive. Sponsors cut ties. Fans called for accountability. But it was the World Boxing Council that took the strongest stand. WBC President Mauricio Sulaiman issued a public statement in July condemning Garcia's behavior and officially expelling him from all WBC activity. No fights, no rankings, no title contention, indefinitely. The WBC emphasized that they would not tolerate racism, bigotry, or hate speech under any circumstances. The move wasn't just disciplinary, it was symbolic. One of the biggest stars in boxing had been frozen out of one of the sport's most powerful organizations, completely. And that wasn't Garcia's only problem. Just days later, the New York State Athletic Commission announced Garcia had failed a drug test following the Haney fight, testing positive for Ostarine, the same PED that got Alexander Povetkin banned years earlier. The commission handed him a 1-year suspension, overturned his win over Haney to a no contest, and issued a heavy fine. That added fuel to an already burning fire. At this point, Ryan Garcia had been suspended by a state athletic commission for PEDs, expelled by the WBC for hate speech, abandoned by multiple sponsors, and losing public trust by the hour. Garcia later posted a weak apology video claiming he was misunderstood and loves everyone, but it came off as damage control, not repentance. Promoters distanced themselves. Fellow fighters called him out. Even his own family publicly worried about his mental state. As of 2025, the WBC's expulsion remains in place, and it carries the weight of a lifetime ban, unless Garcia completes a full redemption arc. But given the depth of the damage, that's a long shot. In boxing history, plenty of fighters have been banned for what they did in the ring. Garcia? He got banned for what he did with a smartphone. A sad modern tale of how talent and fame can implode in real time. Luis Lazarte. Luis Lazarte might not be a household name, but his infamous implosion in 2012 earned him something no other boxer on this list can claim: a true lifetime ban from one of the sport's major organizations, the IBF. Now, Lazarte wasn't a nobody in Argentina. He was a respected veteran, a former IBF light flyweight world champion, and at 40 years old, he was still fighting in front of sold-out hometown crowds in Buenos Aires. But on February 10th, 2012, everything unraveled in a way that stunned the boxing world. That night, Lazarte was fighting Filipino rising star John Riel Casimero in an IBF-sanctioned bout. On paper, it was a classic youth versus experience matchup. In the ring, it turned into a complete circus, and Lazarte was the ringleader. From the opening bell, Lazarte fought dirty, and not bend the rules dirty. We're talking outright criminal. Low blows, headbutts, holding, hitting on the break. It was like he was speed running the rulebook for fouls. At one point, he even bit Casimero during a clinch. But that's not even the worst part. During the later rounds, Lazarte, in full view of the cameras and referee, allegedly told the official, "Do you want to die tonight?" It wasn't trash talk. It wasn't lost in translation. He said it multiple times, in Spanish, directly to the man officiating the fight. And it wasn't subtle. You could hear it clear as day on the broadcast. In the 10th round, Casimero dropped Lazarte with a vicious combination and forced a TKO stoppage. But instead of the usual handshake and post-fight hand raises, what followed was a scene out of a war zone. The crowd rioted. Argentine fans stormed the ring, attacking Casimero, his corner, and even officials. Chairs flew, bottles were hurled, people were trampled trying to escape the madness. It was one of the ugliest, most dangerous post-fight scenes in modern boxing history, and it was all triggered by the tension Lazarte had stoked throughout the fight. The International Boxing Federation, IBF, didn't hesitate. Within days, IBF President Daryl Peoples issued a letter declaring that Luis Lazarte was banned for life from participating in any IBF-sanctioned event, in any capacity. Not just fighting, not cornering, not promoting, nothing. The letter explicitly cited Lazarte's death threats to the referee, his dangerous in-ring conduct, and his role in inciting the riot. There was no room for appeal, no second chances, and unlike other bans on this list, this one stuck. Lazarte never fought in another IBF bout again. No apology, no redemption arc, no reduced suspension. He was blacklisted permanently. The Argentinian Boxing Commission never disciplined him seriously, but the IBF's move was widely praised as one of the few times a sanctioning body took a real stand on fighter misconduct. In a sport that often forgives and forgets, even when it shouldn't, Lazarte's case was the exception. So while others on this list flirted with bans or managed to talk their way back in, Luis Lazarte holds the rare and infamous distinction of being truly, permanently banned for life from a major boxing organization, and frankly, he earned it. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button, because I'm going to be posting more videos like this soon. Thanks for watching, guys.